Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to get logged on, and then we will get started with our wonderful Fairygodboss friend, Natasha Nurse, who is going to talk to us today about how to jumpstart your side hustle. Before we dive in, for those of you logging on, if you could just do me a favor and in your chat, let me know that you can hear me so we can make sure it's not just me and Natasha talking to each other.
Nice, yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks, y'all. We appreciate it. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Mary, and I am on the Fairygodboss team. For those of you who don't know, Fairygodboss, we are the largest career community for women, and we are a free resource for millions of women every month to read job reviews, apply for jobs, connect and engage with one another in our community, and also attend amazing professional development webinars like this. Before we turn it over to Natasha, a few housekeeping things. There's your chat function, so feel free to chime in. That way you also have the option of always being anonymous as well with chat. And then if you have questions throughout the presentation, please chime in. I know Natasha wants this to be interactive, so you can use your Q&A functionality as well. And then afterward, we will be sending a follow-up email to everyone who registered with the recording, so you can revisit this at any time, how you can stay in touch with Natasha as well, including joining her Fairygodboss group, Dressing Room 8. And so with all of that housekeeping out of the way, I am thrilled to turn it over to Natasha Nurse, who is a speaker, a coach, content creator, generally just an amazing woman who is going to talk to us about how to jumpstart your side hustle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marian. Good morning. I'm super excited to be here. This is my first webinar with Fairygodboss, and so such an honor and privilege to be here. And I think we should just really kind of jump into this conversation. I'll share more about who I am later in the program. But yes, if we have questions, I will, make sure you guys put them in so that I can respond. And then let's just get into this. So essentially this morning, we're gonna be talking about how to jumpstart your side hustle. Why? Because we live in a gig economy, right? Which means that more and more people are not just doing one job, but they're doing multiple jobs. They have their main 9 to 5, and then they pick up other types of gigs and side hustles. And so more now than ever, I think it's really good and important to figure out how do we do this and how do we do this successfully? How do we make it work for our lifestyle? And so that's what the conversation is going to be about. And generally, like I said, outside of that, just put in questions. I can try to navigate, and we'll get to them. So let's get to the next slide. All right, so like anything else, when you start in life, you really have to have clarity on what you want, right? What's your idea? Thomas Edison once said, the value of an idea lies in the using of it. So clarity on what you want to do is going to be the most paramount, because ultimately there's a lot of different side hustles and different ways that you can make money. So we just want to get really clear on what we want to do, and then we can take it from there. And what does that mean? So moving forward, we have an idea, so we can I'll throw in an example. So say some of you are writers and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do freelance writing. Can I do that and make money? Yes, right? But we got to answer a couple of questions. So here, I didn't say before, but if you want to take notes, if you want to take pictures of the screenshots, you are going to get this sent to you as well, as Mary said earlier, but feel free to take notes and do that right now as well. So what is your idea, right? And I'm like old school, and I say old school because I mean literally take pen and paper and write it out, really kind of put forth a manifestation of what you want in some type of document. If you're like, Tasha, paper, bad for trees, I hear you. We can do it the eco-friendly way. Get on your tablet, get on your laptop, get on your phone, but really write and answer these questions for yourself and fully write out your answers. After you write down what your idea is, have you researched it, right? So if you're saying, I want to be a freelance writer, well, what's the market like for that, right? What are the rates? What are the types of opportunities available? And most importantly, why do you want to do this? Because, you know, the why is always more important than the what you are doing. Because if you're not clear and grounded in your why, what's going to likely happen? You might hit a bump along the road and then you'll stop and you won't be really interested in moving forward. And we want you to be successful at this. So why you want to do something is just as important as what you're doing. Don't forget that. Also, another question to keep in mind, is there a demand for this, right? So, you know, you might want to say, dye cats pink, right? Like something totally random, but is there a demand for that, right? Like, do people generally want their cats to be pink? I don't know. I think my tabby, my black and white cat would probably say no, but you got to find out what is the demand for what you want to do. And then also what's really important, how is this side hustle matching the flexibility within your life? So what do I mean by that? Maybe you're a mom, maybe you have an extremely demanding 9 to 5. Maybe you are someone who travels a lot. So you really want to think about something that's going to ease and fit into the flexibility of the lifestyle that you already have for yourself. You're not trying to work harder, you're trying to work smarter. And having a side hustle is creating another stream of income for yourself, but it has to be a part of the life that you want, right? Because otherwise, what will you do? You'll stop and you won't enjoy the process, you won't keep moving forward. And then also earning potential, right? So the side hustle you want, is it going to garner and give to you the amount of extra money you're looking to achieve in this process? Meaning, if you're looking to make an extra $1,000 a month, you know, do freelance writers make that? Do, you know, and we're going to talk about some other side hustle opportunities, you know, fill in the blank. Does it offer that? Or is that not necessarily the best feasible option to get the ultimate number that you're looking to achieve? And so, okay, I don't think I see any questions yet. We'll keep going. Now, also something to really think about, and this is super important, is your side hustle only going to be an online venture, or is there online and in-person work required? Why is this important? What did I mention earlier? Flexibility. We have to make sure that this is fitting into your lifestyle that you want. So if the side hustle you're choosing, so for instance, some people love like signing up with Avon and selling beauty products. That's an in-person and an online hustle that you are engaging in. So if you're saying, I don't want to do any in-person stuff, then you're probably not going to want to do that, because that really is effective by getting in front of a lot of people and really kind of working your salesmanship and your community and networking abilities. So really important to think about. Also, like if you were starting a business, who is your customer avatar? And when I mean by customer avatar, I mean specifically, what is the age of this person who's buying from you, potentially buying from you? Where do they live? What are their hobbies? Why do they like this product or service that you would be marketing, right? Like fully write out this person as if you think of it as like a dating profile. Like Amy, she is 25, she lives in downtown Seattle, she loves to spend the weekends hiking, she has 3 dogs. Like, get specific, because the more specific you are about who is enticed by your product or service that you're offering, the better that you can resonate with your marketing, with your messaging to that person, right? So we can't just say, well, we're selling to anyone. Not everyone is buying something, right? Not everyone is interested in one specific thing. So we got to get really specific with that customer avatar. And then why do they need it, right? So like, what exactly is it, and what problem are you solving, essentially, which is very business-like. But again, a side hustle could be a gig that you do, but it could also it can turn into a bigger business. So that's why it's important to really ask and answer these questions for yourself. All right, resources are key. Someone in the world once said, tap into resourcefulness, unleash creativity, progress will follow, right? So what do I mean by that? Resources are key, because like anything else, success in life requires effort, determination, networking, resources, timing, and many, many other things, right? But resourcefulness is definitely a part of the process. So this is a really important slide for you guys to check out, because this is coming from the Penny Hoarders. Shout out to them. They shouted us the Fairygodboss webinar, I believe, like last week. And so we appreciate the love. And so they have a really great lineup of some of the top 2019 side hustles to make money with. So let's go through them. Rideshare driving. So if you enjoy driving and you're like, oh, 2-3 days a week I'm home, maybe you have a flexible 9 to 5, you could pick up this side hustle and start making money by driving, because A, you're already like driving. If you already like are good with navigation, then it's like it's a win-win, right? Freelance work. I'm all about the freelance work, right? So whether you sign up on a website like Fiverr or Upwork, which is like essentially a mash of job opportunities, gigs for people to sign up and say, hey, I can do this, or you even do it on your own. The point is, so many of us have expertise as writers, as content creators, as speakers, as trainers, right? We all have unique skill sets that we're able to do, and people underestimate the value of what people would pay for. So if you're like, hey, I'm started my career as an accountant, but now I'm doing something else. Well, if you still want to use those accountant abilities, right? Like go ahead and do that, right? Like, so it's really, freelance is like a huge arena. I mean, Fiverr and Upwork is just like the tip of that iceberg. So that's something to think about. Tutoring. Who here is bookish, right? Who here feels like they could teach and tutor in biology, in American history, in math, right? Like so many websites, to name some, tutor.com, Brainfuse, Tutor Me, where you can sign up to be a tutor and you can work from home. Some op tutoring requires in-person, so it just depends on the platform and the way you go about it. But that's a really good opportunity to make money. Selling craft goods. Who's crafty? Who's all my DIY people, right? If you make beautiful bags or jewelry or things like that, and they're just sitting in your home and you're like, I could sell it, right? You could get to Etsy.com. You can sell on eBay. You could start your own website and sell it, right? Because sometimes we're making things and then we don't think about what? The value that we could be adding to someone else's life and or our pockets. Cha-ching. So if that's something that you're interested in, have at it. Creating online courses. So similar to this, like if you're someone who's like, I could do coursework on something that's English or tutoring like subject, or business related subjects, or a lifestyle, right? Like you can make a course in many different things. So that definitely is a really interesting stream of income that you could build out for yourself. And what's great about that is you can do that from your home, right? You can do that in your jammies. So hello, money in your jammies, I'm all about that, right? That's amazing. Again, similar to the rideshare driving. If you're like, I like driving, I like food, there you go. You could do meal delivery. And then this is a really popular one. It's been making people thousands of dollars. Airbnb, right? So like if you have an extra room in your place, if you have an investment property that you've invested in and you're like, I could rent this out. I could make money. Yes, you could. You make tons of money. So that's also really exciting. If you are, again, a master of English, right? Someone who can teach English and the grammar and the functionality of this language, teach that in programs, online, in person. That's another really great opportunity to consider. Delivering groceries, similar to the rideshare meal delivery, driving. People don't mind it. I love to drive. So, that's definitely something that you can think about. And then another thing is, and then people really, I think, sleep on this one, which is selling t-shirts online. So it's super easy with platforms like Merch by Amazon, Printful, Redbubble, where all you have to do is upload a design, right? And you can create designs that, depending upon the niche you're trying to touch, right? So if you're like trying to hit like computer nerds, or you're trying to, hit feminists, or you're trying to hit like hip hop heads, right? Like people have different communities that they're a part of, and they want to represent that in their fashion, right? Fashion is everything. So you can actually, either you make the designs yourself, you can hire someone on Fiverr to make the designs for you, but you have this great idea about creating a series of t-shirts that you feel like would really just pop off with different niche communities. That would be the way to go. And again, done online, in your home, in your jammies. See where I'm going with that? Ooh, I think we have a question. Are there websites we could review that shows market demands? Oh, that's an interesting question, I think, Yvonne, right? You know, I think you would have to really like Google and see depending upon which type of you know, side hustle you're thinking about. So for like the t-shirt thing, you would have to look at some of the sites already selling t-shirts and see how they're selling, look at reviews. So I think you're gonna, you know, I don't know if there's directly a website that will tell you like this is the best type of you know, side hustle, or this is doing best in this side hustle. But I think depending upon how you go through it, so like freelance work, you can look and see what are the jobs being posted about that. And if you see a consistent trend of, oh, people keep asking for, you know, SEO work, people keep asking for Instagram creatives, right? Like you can see the demand based on that, and then you can decide appropriately what makes sense for you. All right, so I think I answered that question. Next, we will go to the next slide. All right. Okay, mindset. So now this might surprise some people for like, huh, why is she talking about mindset? Well, I'm talking about mindset because mindset is everything. As Buddha once said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. And that's like super deep for like an early morning conversation, but it's so meaningful because at the end of the day, if you don't approach this with the proper mindset, what's going to happen? You're gonna fall off. You're not gonna want to continue. It's gonna be more problematic for you than if you had started on the right footing. So let's get into what it means to maintain a mindset for success, especially when thinking about jumpstarting your side hustle. Clarity, we talked about that in the beginning, right? So focus on why you started, because this is what's going to allow you to further progress and succeed. Being open, you got to be flexible, guys, because sometimes when we start things, what happens? You cannot know all the different hurdles and all the different challenges and successes you're going to have. So you have to be flexible. You'll find different mechanisms help you sell more, right? Whether it's a product or a service, and also different networks, different events, different opportunities. Like it'll be a learning experience beyond belief, like mind blown kind of situation. And that's a good thing. So as long as you stay open to it, you won't get frustrated in the process. I find that when people do start side hustles, I have seen that because they don't have an open mindset about this, then they get frustrated. Why? Because in their mind, they think they need to sell one specific way or do something one specific way, and it's not returning the outcome that they want for themselves. So then they stop, or they kind of complain, and they just fall off. Open and flexibility is key for this, definitely. Learning and execution, right? So as we're open, we have to what? Learn. Everything in life is a teachable lesson. Some lessons we like more than others. I always love to say that because it's so true, and you know it. And so what do you have to do? You have to learn and execute and pivot and change. And so for instance, let's go back to the Avon example. Say, your cousin was doing Avon, she got you onto her team, and now you're doing Avon, and then you realize that you're gonna have to, do some vending, go out to some festivals, go to some events, and then you realize, oh, I don't really like it because I don't like being around large crowds. Interesting learning moment, right? Teachable lesson. Does it mean you have to stop? Absolutely not. But it means you have to what? You have to think about who you are in relation to what you're doing and pivot and change. So maybe you decide to now bring your things online because people are going to be buying from you online mostly anyway. So then you create content around the products from your home, from the comfort of being with you. And if you're like me, your pets, and you're not stressed out by the massive people that you would encounter if you're doing something in person, right? So that's you gotta learn, and then you gotta pivot and execute. Consuming positivity. So I put this because I find, especially as I coach and I see with people venturing into business or side hustles, is you've got to motivate yourself, right? So why? Motivation doesn't last forever, right? You can't just like rah, 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 like, and on Tuesday, and then come Friday, still feel that rah, rah, rah. Like rah, rah, rah is every single day. So what are you reading? What are the podcasts you're listening to? What are the webinars you're participating in, right? Like you gotta really make sure that you're upping the ante when it comes to motivation and activation, and also what? Skill learning. The more you read, the more you listen, the more that you consume content that's gonna help you be a better salesperson, help you be a better networker, help you be a better businesswoman, creative, ... You are what? You're essentially investing in yourself. You're investing in the side hustle. And also, if this is a business, you're investing for the bigger picture for what you're trying to do. And then lastly, and this is like, okay, Tasha, I know this, but I say it because it's really important. Never give up, right? At the end of the day, is every day going to be batting 1,000? No, of course not. But that's okay, because there's lessons being learned in that. And we can't ever give up. If we give up, then we're giving permission to the universe to not listen to us, to not hear us, and to not feed into what we're trying to do. So you've got to be determined. You've got to stay focused on what the goal is, what the targets are. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that kind of goal setting as well. Let's see. I don't see any more questions, so we can keep moving. Networking. I know you're like, okay, it is early. Are we really going to talk about networking? Yes, we are going to talk about networking. Excuse me. Yes, we have to. So Michelle Janae once said, networking is not about just connecting people. It's about connecting people with ideas, and people with opportunities. It's such a profound quote, because if you really think about it, that's the essence and beauty of why we network. It's not just about, I gotta just grow my following on social media. I gotta connect more with LinkedIn. It's really about finding beautiful relationships that can lend for people supporting your business, people giving you advice, people mentoring you, people supporting you in your life. It's much bigger than just, hey, be my friend, or hey, let's talk at this like interesting, aka boring networking event, right? Like it's a much bigger picture. So how do we use networking for success, aka how do you use it for your side hustle? Let's go through. There's a lot on this slide. Social media, social networking, right? So if you are not on the Fairygodboss groups, get in a group. Oh my goodness. Get in the Fairygodboss group. You're obviously doing the right thing, and you're already on the Fairygodboss platform, which is amazing. But we got to also utilize the groups, right? Because what's happening there? You're having some really curated conversations. Some of it might be about side hustles. Some of it might be about career things. Some of it might be about lifestyle. There's so many different really cool conversations happening there. So you really don't want to miss out. Also, I mentioned what? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Tremendous networking that can happen from this. So if you are not opposed to social media, which I hope you're not, you can use these platforms to promote, to educate, to inspire, to motivate, to answer questions. Q&As are really powerful functionalities of being able to describe who you are, what you're doing, why people should care. LinkedIn, write articles, put yourself out beyond than just, I'm just doing this thing, but you're the expert at what you're doing, right? And we have to think of ourselves that way, because what? We're the CEOs of our life, right? You are in the driver's seat. So especially when you're starting a side hustle, you've got to command a certain level of respect and a certain level of determination and presence that you're showing with others, okay? And if you have questions about that, put that in the comments, but we're gonna talk a little bit more about social media, so I think I should cover my bases, but we'll see. Networking events, not all networking events suck, right? Some of them can be really, really amazing, but are we leveraging them for our personal benefit? So one thing I always teach my clients is the idea that when you go to these things, have goals, right? We're not just going to go and get cheese, right? Like, I mean, hopefully not, right? Like we're going because we have the intention of meeting at least 5 people, right? If that's a hefty goal for you, then just meeting at least 1 or 2 people. We have the goal of learning. What's the actionable takeaway points here? What are we taking away from this? And then what are we doing to showcase who we are, the brand we're building, the side hustle we have, the business we're doing, right? Like really leverage it for your benefit. Don't just be passive. I think too many people sometimes are passive, or they're like, well, I don't want to be too strategic. Well, guess what? Life is about strategy. So that ship has sailed. We've got to employ strategy. strategy, strategy, strategy. Now you don't have to go up and be like, hi, my name is, this is my business card. Obviously not. Relationship building, right? Hello, how are you? What brings you here? ... And it naturally can flow into, oh, well, you know, I came to this women in business event because I just started a new side hustle and I was really excited to learn about how other women are moving and growing in their business and things that I could take away. What are you here for? What are you doing? Right? Like, it can be a natural conversation. It doesn't have to be awkward. It doesn't have to be quote unquote salesy, as people like to say. But at the end of the day, sales is what's feeding our mouths, guys. Like, we're all selling every single day. Whatever you're doing, you're selling somehow, some way. So I think we have to kind of cut loose of this negative narrative around salesmanship and appreciate the beauty of it, that we're all doing it in different ways simultaneously. And so it's all about just making it organic to who you are and making it feel comfortable so that we don't not like the narrative that we're living anyway. Next, personal and professional networks. So we all have what? Our own personal networks. We have family members, we have friends of friends, we have friends of family, we have work colleagues, we have friends of work colleagues. We all are tapped into multiple networks, like all at once. And so I think what people fail to understand is that if you say maybe have 20 people that could be supportive to you in your business, how have you reached out to them? How have you told them what you're doing? Maybe they want to support. Maybe they'll help send out a newsletter. Maybe you're doing a home party. They can come to that, right? Like, there are different ways to tap into the networks you already have. But what do you have to do? You have to present the opportunity. People aren't mind readers. I wish I was a mind reader. Sadly, I am not. So if you need me, if you want my attention, what do? You got to get in front of me. You got to email me. You got to talk to me. You got to do something, right? So I think people expect for people to just jump into your life and give and feed into you. Sorry, darling, it doesn't work that way. Opportunity is not knocking on your door. You've got to go knock on its door, right? So to really think about that. And then, of course, for my content creators tuning in, if you write, if you do podcasts, if you have a website, if you join forums, groups, things like that, you can leverage those platforms and opportunities to talk about yourself, to talk about your story, to talk about what you're doing, and to also invite other people in your space, not in your space, to collaboratively come in and do it. And it can be really an amazing experience. I think for people that I've gotten on this like media rush and really trying to put their stories out there more, they enjoy it because they're like, wow, that wasn't so hard. And then they're like, cool, I made money. Cool, I did that, right? Like, it lends to other things. But you have to what? You have to put in the time to do it. So we'll go back to an Avon example. If you were selling, the Avon products, then what could you do? Well, you could check out and create a list of the top 25 health and wellness blogs, right? You can ask to be a contributor. You could ask to be interviewed or featured, right? You just have to ask the question, right? And if you never ask the question, what's the answer? It's always going to be no. So if you have had questions on that, please put those in the comments and in the Q&A and let me know. And then now, I know you've been waiting, social media. So we're going to talk about how social are you? So engaging, Tom H.C. Anderson said, engage rather than sell, work as a co-creator, not a marketer. So he's saying the narrative is really, it's a social conversation that lends to business and money and ... right? But at the end of the day, it's not just about like buy, but it's really about understand the story, understand the narrative, right? So for people who have psoriasis or eczema, right, they're suffering with these skin issues, and it's really painful and hurtful and ... Well, they learn now about this new product that you have that's not only going to heal them, but it's going to make them feel good about themselves, right? And if you can make someone feel good, what are we doing? We're doing more than giving them a product. It's more than lotion at this point. It's about enjoying your life a bit more. And what's the value to that? All right. So I think there's another question. So Kathy wrote, you mentioned being flexible to your outreach for a side hustle. I agree. I was told some time ago, don't be afraid to do one thing for a client. And by doing that, they will see your skills and then they will want 4 other things you do as to PR consulting. Show them one layer in order to get to other layers of work. Exactly, Kathy. That's a great comment to add in. So ultimately, it's about when it comes to, if you already have a business, for instance, and you're looking to maybe extend the business offerings, you know, you can think of that as not necessarily a side hustle, but other venues or opportunities to add into the flavor of what you're doing. And if you perform well, if you do a good job, people will what? People will not only appreciate what you're doing, but they will ask for more. So that's a very good point. All right, so all right, here we go. So how to embrace social media. So I wanted to talk about this because when we talk about social media, what I usually get as the kind of the pushback is that people get frustrated with themselves about, well, how do we do it, right? What do you practically mean? What do I need to be everywhere? What am I doing, right? Like there's a lot of like unknowns, and that's okay because we can answer those questions. So ultimately, first, strategy. What is your social media strategy? So definitely, where will you be, right? Is the platform, what platforms will you use is one of the questions you would want to ask and answer. So are you going to be everywhere, or are you going to be in my top selections, which would be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, if you're, you know, a communicating peacock like me, and LinkedIn, right? And then of course, other websites like Fairygodboss, like groups on Fairygodboss, like LinkedIn groups, like Facebook groups, like, right? Like, so you can leverage those are like 9 different things I just mentioned. So like, there's a lot of different places to be in. If you're like, hold your horses, Tosh, it's too much. Then you strategize as to, right, start experimenting. Is the audience for what you're offering, are they on Facebook? Because if they're not on Facebook, then maybe you don't prioritize the content there. I mean, there's over 1 billion people on there, so I definitely, like, I'm always like, get that Facebook page up, guys. But maybe your audience isn't on Twitter. Maybe your audience isn't on Instagram, but they are on LinkedIn. Oh, they are on Fairygodboss, right? Like, figure out where your customer, remember that customer avatar is, and then you've got to what? Those are the places you've got to meet her or him at. That, you know, you can only sell to where people are. So you got to meet them there. Scheduling, that's a big thing for people because they're like, Tasha, wait a minute. I'm not posting on Twitter 24/7 a day, 24 hours a day. Okay, that's your business, right? But ultimately, can you post 3 times for the day? Can you post once a day on 4 platforms? Like, figure out what works for you. And also, when will you be scheduling this for yourself? There's lots of schedulers that you guys can use. Planoly is great for Instagram. You can use Facebook as the scheduler. You can schedule on Facebook for free as much as you like. You can schedule through Hootsuite on different platforms there. You can schedule like your Pinterest there. Like, there's so many different places that you can schedule, but when are you booking in the time to do this as well is something you have to make sure. Like, literally, if you were to look in your calendar, are you, okay, Monday and Wednesday between, you know, 6 and 8 a.m., I'm going to do social media scheduling and also content engagement, right? Like, pick in your actual schedule when you're going to execute, and then also when you want your content to be accessible. And you can Google when are the best times to post on different platforms. You can also use apps that tell you the best times based on the content you've been doing, when it's best to reach your audience. So scheduling is key because, again, we've got to meet our customer, right? We can't just say, okay, I'm just going to do whatever. Strategy. We've got to do it in a way that gets us what we want, which is engagement, as well as understanding, as well as building trust, as well as hopefully cha-ching, right? Making that money. Because unless you're doing this gratuitously, if you're doing this to make money, then that has to be a part of the conversation, not a driving force, but it's a beautiful byproduct of the good intention of, hey, this is going to help you, this is going to feed into your life and make your existence better, right? If we're solving problems, what do you have? You have cha-ching. It's a good thing, guys. Messaging. What is your brand message, right? It has to be more about the lotion. It has to be more about the freelance writing. What are you really selling someone? Are you saving them time, which is like the #1 thing that people want, right? Because what do people feel? Like, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to do this. Da, 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 da. So saving people time. Are you saving people money? People love a bargain. I love a bargain. So, you know, buy one, get one free. You're talking sweet music to my ears. right? So people love that. What do people love? And how is that being executed in your messaging? Because if it's just about the product, if it's just about the service and we're not getting across the bigger picture, then what? People aren't hearing you. They're not hearing why they need your solution that you're offering. So that's really important. And then we talked a little bit about engagement, but ultimately, when you do have those posts up on social media, when you do write those blogs and people are coming in and responding, if it's to dead ears, what is your customer going to feel about that? Your potential customer or your active customers? They're going to say, oh, well, she doesn't care about me. She didn't respond, right? People want to hear from each other. People want to feel like their voice is heard, their voice matters, especially when they're feeding into your business and what you're doing. So you've got to engage. Thanks for this comment. Read it, respond. You can't just let it go into the ether and it just lives there and that's the end. It's not going to serve you well by doing that. So you can't ignore people. You've got to make sure you're engaging with them. And then honesty, I talk about this because I think, to be honest, some of the most successful campaigns we see and the most talked about stuff on media is what? True transparency, right? People being vulnerable, people showing that, like, you know what? I lost my job. I didn't know what I was going to do. I started this side hustle. I now make X amount of money per month. My skin was killing me. I couldn't work. I couldn't do this. I started using this product and it changed my life. It gave me life, right? Like when you have a personal story that you can share that is authentic and very honest with what you're doing, I think it really does set you apart from other people. So if you don't necessarily feel like the product or service you're doing is life changing, then that's fine. But again, then how is it going to change the lives of the people you're trying to sell to, right? So, even from the freelance writer perspective, there are people who have websites who are like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to write these articles, but I need this content. You can say, listen, I'm going to save you time. I know how to give you articles. I know how to work that SEO, the keywords necessary to get you the views that you're looking to raise your visibility on Google. Like, speak to people for what they need, what's driving them crazy, because not everything we do has to be, a life-changing thing, but it definitely can improve the lives of yourself as well as others. So if you have questions, let me know, but otherwise we're going to go. Okay, I mentioned this, we live in a global world, because I wanted to mention this because ultimately sometimes we think too small, and we gotta dream big and we've got to think big, right? When we do stuff online, people in China, in India, in Australia, like all over the world can access it. Well, hopefully. I mean, there are issues there, but that's a whole other conversation that we're not going to talk about. But for today's purposes, we live in a world where it's not just our local neighborhood, right? So we have to think about what? The online presence that we're building and that we are putting out in the world. So BC Forbes once said, if you don't drive your business, you will be driven out of business. So we've got to move forward into the online world that we can be a part of. And there's some things that we really got to think about and make sure that we just check in time, that we're doing accurately and well. So website design. If your side hustle lends for having a website, which it should, I mean, most people could benefit by having one unified place that you can direct people to and say, hey, want to buy this, go to, right? Like it's a one kind of spot situation that really works well. But how's it going to be designed? Is it confusing? Are there too many things on the homepage? Is it functional? Is it even like, is it easy to navigate? All of those things come into play with that. And again, if you're like, well, Tasha, how am I supposed to know how to design a website for the lotions, right? I love the lotion. Keep going back to the lotion. Well, ultimately, what are the other people in Avon doing, right? Like, what are the 20 top salesmen in your regional area? How does their web presence look? What are they doing, right? And then how can you differentiate? How can you put the basics of what you need, but also the clarity that maybe is missing out otherwhere, that's going to make you more successful and easier to access and easier to buy from. Online engagement, we talk a little bit about it, but again, when people are contacting you, say on the website, does it take you a week to get back to them? Are you giving them an understanding of when, if they send in a message to you, will they hear from you in 24 hours, 48 hours, or beyond? Again, how are people connecting with you, and what's the tone that you're connecting with people, right? We got to make sure that we are serving the customer. Why? Because you're not buying yourself, right? Like you're not buying your product, your service. Other people are. So it's really important that people, what? Like communicating with you or your brand, like communicating and the process that's involved with it. Because if you make it frustrating, if you piss off people, are they likely to support your side hustle or your business? Absolutely not, right? They're like, okay, chick, later. Like, so we have to remember that we've got to be people to sell to people, to educate people, to inspire people. You cannot piss off your customer. You cannot make people feel belittled. You can't make people feel frustrated when all you're trying to do is get, you know, your messaging, your product out to them. Ease of contact. I say this because this is like a pet peeve of mine, and I tell my clients this all the time, which is when people do go to a website or they do find like one landing spot for you, then is it easy to connect with you, or are there jumps and hurdles they have to get through to get to you? I'm a fan of putting your email address out there. Guys, you can check your email, right? Like I know, oh my gosh, there's a lot of email. Hey, this is a part of the process, right? So you've got to make it easy. Some people prefer contact forms. I think that, you know, if I'm making it harder for you to contact me, I'm doing an injustice to me. So I have my email address at the bottom of my website. I encourage you, put your contact information out there. You don't have to put your phone, right? I'm not asking you to put your home address, but make it easy for people to reach you, because sometimes they don't want to fill out a contact form, right? They don't have to click, yes, I'm human, you know, all this extraness, nonsense. Just an email, I can email you, we can contact, you know, join my Q&A live stream. Like, make it easy for people to access you and understand what you're doing and why they need you. Also, is it easy for people to give you money? If you only accept cash, that's a problem, because we're not just in a cash only system in life, right? Some people use PayPal, some people use credit cards. Are you making it difficult for people to pay you? If you are, who are you hurting? Them or you? You, right? Because they'll pass, right? People have very short time, you know, the attention to things is so little, right? People, 2 seconds, they're off on another website. They're off doing something else. And also what? People are struggling with the multitasking. They're looking at your website, they're watching TV, the kids are crying, the husband's asking something. There's a lot of things going on at once. So make it easy. I want you, if you take anything away from this conversation, easeability in what you're doing and what you're offering is only going to further what your proposition is. If you make it more difficult, people say peace and they'll check out on you. Marketing tools. So if you are trying to streamline this, what do? Then we have systems in place. We talked a little bit about social media scheduling, but also what could we do? We can do email scheduling. We can, like, if anyone's heard of HubSpot, HUBSPOT.com, that's a great resource to schedule emails and to have synchronized emails, so that when people do check and open the newsletter, they can, 3 days later get notified of a new product or a new thing you're doing. Use tools like that. Use automation tools to help you do this easier. It's working smarter, not harder. And then of course, customer reviews, which is going to be really important, because we want to showcase that, like, hey, I just started, but 10 people bought it and they loved it. Load that onto social media, load that onto your website, like, get people aware that people are buzzing about it, people are talking about it. And again, if you're like, I just started, I have one. Yes, good, one, post it on social media, because one can turn into 3, which can turn into 5, which can, you know, it can keep on going, but you got to get that out there. Now, tools. I know it's a lot of content. You're like, whoa, but it's all really important. So stay with me, guys. Tools. Steve Jobs once said, you cannot mandate productivity. You must provide the tools to let people become their best, right? So what is he talking about? Ultimately, he's talking about resources that we talked about earlier, but there's certain specific things that you can do that can further your side hustle or your business. So on an advertising side, we have different categories. Advertising, you know, if you have like an actual like place that you're operating your business, right? Google My Business, like, give people that the information there, so all over the country, right? All over the world, people can see it. Yellow pages, business directories. That's a great way to post what you're doing. And of course, social media advertising, key. I mean, there's, you know, so much content out there that you can definitely tap into to figure out how do I work the Facebook ads? How do I work Twitter ads, Instagram ads, LinkedIn ads, right? Like there's so much out there. So, but you got to just kind of keep it in the brain as to these are options, these are resources and tools I need to be aware of. Analytics. So why are analytics important? Well, we want to know what's working, right? What's resonating more or not. Analytics are a good way of giving you that information, right? When you write something or you post something and 1,000 people saw that versus the previous week 100 people saw it, that what exactly was interesting and more enticing about that, right? So your website hosting analytics, Google Analytics, HubSpot, I mentioned before, will give you the analytics of who's opening the emails, which person's clicking on what, right? Like that type of analytics are key. Or also another CRM tool that you can use is Salesforce, which is very, very helpful, depending upon how much you want to invest in the side hustle or even a business. Branding, right? So we talked a little bit about that with your messaging, but I recommend that people have a blog on their website because it's a good way to what? Start a conversation, to educate and to bring people in. It's more than just the product or service. It's about the reasoning, the why. And that's how you can manifest the why through the blog. Also what? Guest blog. Go and, like I said, I write out a list of 100 places that would resonate with what you're selling, what you're doing, and build awareness around you and around what you're doing. It's a great way to kind of have back end awareness of what's going on. If you enjoy speaking, what can you do? You can do some hosting, you can do some speaking. Whether you're talking about your product or service, what is the value of that? You're building your personal brand, and personal brand can what? Lead to people wanting to learn more about you, lead to people going on the website, and ultimately feeding into what you're doing. So it is, you can build the side hustle, you can build you. Both are kind of forward moving paths that you definitely want to engage in and jump onto. And then also a lot of people are writing books about their story and contributing to anthologies, which is multiple stories in one book, right? And so that is a really awesome way to create passive income opportunities that it can be surrounded by what your business, what your side hustle is. So keep that in mind. And then from a development perspective, if you're like, okay, well, I want to grow, I want to learn more, SBA has really great resources. Your local small business development center, SCORE, you can get a business mentor there for free, and also a bunch of webinars. And of course, Fairygodboss, right? Like this is one of many webinars that have taken place this year and will continue to take place. And then of course, if you sign up with coaching, if you do mentorship, if you do masterminds, those are all feeding into you. And what's the value of that? You're gonna learn, and then you can what? You can execute. So that's a lot. That slide is like everything, but I hope you enjoyed it. Now, I do want to mention, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this phenomenal upcoming conference that Fairygodboss actually is going to be a part of. One of the speakers is going to be speaking. And so you definitely don't want to miss that, because if you want to have in-person connectivity with Fairygodboss, this would be a good opportunity to do it. It's called the 6th Annual Women on the Rise Forum and Expo, Beyond the 9 to 5 Business Conference. It's 2 days, October 18th and 19th at LaGuardia Plaza Hotel. I'm deeply connected with and love Marcia Guerrier, the founder, but I've spoken at this conference. I've worked with on behalf with them. It's a conference that's really going to help you with development, with learning skills, with connectivity and networking. So many people struggle with not feeling like they are the best networkers. So the only way to get past that hurdle is to what? Just do it. Thank you, Nike. So you got to get out there. And so this is, if you've never been to LaGuardia Plaza Hotel, it's a beautiful hotel. And it's, these 2 days is really not only gonna give you that rah, but it's gonna give you those practical skills as you embark upon a side hustle, embark upon growing your business. This is the conference to be at. You don't want to miss it. So that's the bit.ly link that you definitely can get more information at. And if you have more comments or questions about that, you definitely can put that in the QA. But go to the 6th Annual Women on the Rise Forum and Expo. Now, we talked a little bit about this, but essentially what I want to do, and I think, yep, we're good on time, is the customer always matters. So why is this important? I said it before. Who's buying from you? Are you buying from yourself? No. Other people are, right? Like you're selling to human beings, people, whether it's B2B, B2C, people are involved in this process, right? So customers, always think they're right, whether that's true or not. So we got to make sure that we're really thinking about the relationships right? And the human connectivity between what's happening, every transaction, every email, every touch needs to be white glove service. If you want people to have think highly of you and what you're doing, then you have got to keep them in high regard, right? It's a give, take, two-way street. So like, I love, like Henry Winkler said, assumptions are the termites of relationships. We cannot assume anything, right? Absolutely not. You can't assume that you're clear. You cannot assume that what you're saying makes complete sense to someone. Absolutely not. You will learn that the hard way if you haven't already learned that lesson. That's an interesting lesson to learn. And you got to make sure that what you're saying is courteous, is professional, is getting across the point that you're trying to get across, but also it is not turning the person off. It is not upsetting the person. The person may be upset when they reach out to you, but we don't have to add to that load. We got to de-escalate. We've got to speak and be kind and empathetic, because that's the number one thing you can do as a human being, no matter what you're doing. Kindness, right? Sympathy, empathy. These are things that don't irritate and piss off people. But when we come and we have attitudes, when we come and we're condescending, when we come and we speak down to people, what are we doing? We're pissing people off. We're creating a negative narrative around ourselves, as well as what? Our business, our side hustle. Who is going to be hurt by that? Right? We gotta be kind. We gotta be kind, guys. So if you take anything else, kindness matters. Yay. Also, Ken Blanchard said, just having satisfied customers isn't good enough anymore. If you really want a booming business, you have to create raving fans. So what creates a raving fan? How you engage with them, how you highlight and support them. For the people who do buy your business, do you do shout outs, weekly shout outs for your customers? Are you also talking to them and asking how you can support them, how I can feed into you, right? A lot of times when we get involved in things, it's just me. But again, other people are buying from you. So then what are you doing? How are you supporting them? How are you feeding into them? It's, again, there's enough of the pie in the sky. There's opportunities and ways for us to collaborate, even with our customers. So that's really important. And then Gene Buckley once said, don't try to tell the customer what he wants. If you want to be smart in the shower, then get out, go to work, and serve the customer. Yeah, it's customer service always, right? And it's always focused on the customer, because what? They're the person giving you the reason to do what you're doing. Because if they weren't around, you wouldn't have anyone to sell to. So that's like super duper important. Now here's some just side hustle wisdom as we roll this down. Whether this becomes a bigger business for you is totally up to you. Sometimes I find that people are afraid to embark a side hustle because they're like, oh, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to run a business. Okay, that's okay, boo. Like, do you, right? Like, your life is completely determined by what you want to do. So if this is just a side thing, you're doing 10 hours a month, you're making $500, and that's good enough for you, and that's what you want, bravo. Keep it up. That's amazing, right? But if you get this kind of entrepreneurial bug and you're like, I made $500 this month. I wonder if I can make 1,000. I wonder if I can make 2,000, right? Like, if you just keep having this urge inside to want to grow this up bigger, do you, bravo, right? There's no wrong way to go about this. It's really about deciding how it's fitting into your lifestyle, and you'll get surprised. You'll get surprised either way. Some people say they never knew they wanted to be an entrepreneur. Some people say, I've worked with they always wanted to do it, right? Like, we all have different stories that get played out in the work that we're doing. So just be open, just see how it goes. I say this to people because it's a little sassy, but I want people to understand this, and feel free to share this with your friends and family. You don't have to explain your life, you just have to live it. And I say this because I have definitely, and I'll share a little bit quickly about my story, which is ultimately, and it's like the next slide about upcoming slides, ultimately, I have had a very eclectic career and path in my life, and it has kind of driven my friends or family crazy, but that's okay, because they're not me. They're not paying my bills. They're not feeding my dog or cat. Like, I have to live my life. I have to do what I want. I don't have to explain it, right? And whether people support you or not, who cares, right? Just live your life. And if side hustle is a part of that, bravo, join the hustle community. If it's not, and you wanted to tune in and you're like, I don't think this is for me, that's okay, right? We don't all have to do the same thing. We all don't have to love the same thing. It's just about loving our lives and feeding into ourselves as to what we need and what we want out of this world. Focus on hitting targets. So I think the biggest thing with a side hustle is we've got to strategize. What is this giving to you? I talked about this in the beginning of the webinar. Are you making $200 from this, $500, $1,000? What do you want to back into, right? How can you back into a number if you never think about the number? So we've got to think about this number, because what can you do? From that number, you can then extrapolate and say, I want this $1,000 a month because I want to do, you know, X amount on bills. I want to start an investment thing. I want to, right? Like you can start money and wealth planning, but you can wealth plan only with money, right? So we got to have that target goal in mind. We can't forget it. Put it on a post-it, put it on the wall, wake up every day, manifest it, see it, work towards it, and make it happen. All right. There's also not one way to succeed. We talked about different things you can do. You can what? You can take pieces of this and figure out how to create your curated action plan. There's not one way to skin a cat. There's not one way to succeed in life. You have to figure out what's your special sauce of things. And guess what? That special sauce is going to change. It might work for now, and 6 months from now, you're gonna have to do a new thing. You're gonna have to change something. It's always changing. It's malleable, but that's good. That's what makes life interesting. My life motto is to learn something new and meet someone new every day. You can do this, guys, with the internet. Like with the internet, I absolutely have been doing this for many, many years. It's a privilege and an honor to be able to do this. I think it has made me a better person. It has made me a better business person. It's made me a better content creator. I urge you to take this as your challenge for you and do this and bring your tribe onto this path. Because if we do this, we will be better at what we're doing, whether it's a side hustle, our careers, our motherhood, being a spouse, like whatever you're doing, try to continuously be a lifelong learner. It's going to make the process that much better. And you've got to enjoy this, right? It's really not about the outcomes. If any of you are fans of like Gary Vaynerchuk, I love that a big part of his messaging is this idea that like, he's always winning because it's not about the win or the loss. It's about the process. It's about loving that journey. So if you can get on board with that idea of like, I'm going to love learning how to rock my side hustle, whether I hit my goal or not, it's really about that process and like loving the process of learning and falling and failing and winning and stumbling and all of that in between. That's what you're really kind of tuning into here. So quickly, my story. I went to Penn State, wanted to be a vet, I saw a pig get slaughtered in front of me. I was like, ooh, not about that life. And had to kind of change things up for myself. Started taking business, law classes, went to law school, started law school when the economy crashed. Perfect timing. Woohoo! In New York, of all places, where there's like a lawyer every square foot of Manhattan. It's ridiculous. And that's okay, because I still went through. I graduated cum laude, passed the New York bar, first time successful. Such an amazing accomplishment for myself. Went down a non-traditional path, and I was at a company in December of 2015, and that's when they had a 30% reduction. And so that I felt was like the universal sign to me saying, hey, Tasha, it might be time to do things different. And that's when I started Dressing Room Mate. I essentially wanted to, I wanted to do something different that involved the skills and the things that I love to do, which is speaking, coaching, creating content, working on, and whether that's for myself or for others. And I did, and it's been a beautiful journey. I think I haven't been happier. I haven't been more fulfilled. I haven't felt like I've lived with purpose until I did this, and until I took the chance and the risk to do this. And so I'm deeply grateful that I took a reality check, stood in front of that mirror, right, and was like, that's not working. That's not gonna work. I got to do something different. And I did. And it's really given me life and purpose. And so if you want to know more about my platform, you go to dressingroom8.com. Essentially, I am working with creatives, with women, entrepreneurs, with women, career women who are looking to think with clarity, to learn how to dress with confidence, to live with purpose, and to really to curate the life that they want for themselves. So through personal and professional success, I love what I do. That's my contact information. See, I've given it to you guys. I'm not hiding the ball. You have it right there, okay? And then outside of that, just under the wire, I just want to thank you. I thank you for your time, because I do understand and recognize that You know, you could have been anywhere. You could have been doing anything with this time right now, but you chose to be here for this Fairygodboss webinar. And I appreciate you. And it's an honor and a privilege. And I really appreciate your time. And I hope that you learned. I hope I gave you that rah to say, you know what? I am going to start it. 2019, let's do this, right? The year isn't over. There's still plenty of time to win and to win at the goals that we want, right? And so just to end with some quotes, Walt Disney once said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I love it. So Yvonne said, I'm so proud of you, and your comment about learning something new is on my LinkedIn profile. Let's connect on LinkedIn. See, Mary, we got networking happening right here. Very nice.
I love it. Well, Natasha, thank you so much.
Yes.
So informative. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We will be sending out the recording to all of you, as well as how to connect with Natasha, both on Fairygodboss, join her group, and her website, and all of that fun stuff. So we are right at time. So thank you, Natasha, for your time. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And we hope you have a good rest of your Wednesday.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.